Breaker Crunchers, welcome to episode 42 of Couch Crunchers podcast, the only podcast that knows exactly which houses give out the full-size candy bars.
Obviously.
Yeah. So with me here, I got
Lance, the series sergeant.
And we have a couple of guests for our...
Wait, who are you?
I'm an anomaly. I'm Jay the Comic Creep. And we've got a couple of special guests with us here today from the Comic Exposure podcast. Guys, say hello.
Hello.
Hi, I'm special. I'm a special guest.
I'm a special guest. And I just dropped my laptop. That was good. That's good. I'm ready for this.
So in continuing our AZNerdCast month, we've got Josh and Travis from Comic Exposure podcast, and next week we're going to do somebody will be on here, right?
Yeah, yeah. More on that later.
Yeah. So, as per usual, we'll start out with Fab or Flub. And if you are new or a little bit on the forgetful side, this is the part where I'll read some headlines, and these guys will tell me if they think that headline is fabulous or
fabulous. Nailed it, rats. Nailed it.
Good. Looking good.
All right. So, and this might be a first in Couch Cruncher history, but I've got a 3-part Fab or Flub.
What?
Yeah, 3-parter.
Ooh, it's a trilogy.
Nice. I'm excited.
It's like a triptych Fab or Flub. This online entertainment news site, The Wrap, never heard of it, and I'll probably never go on it ever again. James Gunn James Gunn is in talks to write and direct Suicide Squad 2 for DC Films and Warner Brothers Pictures. Although a script was nearly finished, if Gunn is in fact brought in, he's expected to do a complete overhaul of the script.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Fab or Flub, fellows. Let's start with our guests.
Oh, man. Travis, you take it.
I'm going instinct-wise. I'm going to go anytime someone wants to rewrite a DC movie, I'm going to go fabulous. So I don't know what he's got in store, but just the idea, if you say DC and rewrite, I'm like, probably a pretty good idea. Have they started filming it already, was my question.
No,
and they're trying to rewrite it? Okay, so it's just like they're trying to get the script right before they start filming it.
Yeah.
What a novel idea, DC. Get the script right before you start filming it.
Right?
I think I'm gonna have to agree with you. It's fabulous. It's a fab, except only if the first movie had never existed. That, like, if the original were not a real thing, then I'd be like, yes, James Gunn is the perfect person to take this wacky group of folks. I mean, because literally, weren't they just trying to do Guardians of the Galaxy with that rewrite?
It does seem like the original Suicide Squad was not inspired, but hastily
cobbled together. Yeah.
Homage.
Yeah. But no, I agree. I think it's a fab. I mean, James Gunn is a fantastic writer. He's a fantastic director, but there is he's not for sure going to direct yet. He's for sure writing it with the option of directing coming soon.
Are there like a lot more little boys in this script in his version of it? Is that what's going on with this?
Oh, such timely news, Travis. Such timely news.
I wonder though if he's going to poke a little bit of fun at Disney, knowing that Deadpool's out there poking fun at DC. It's kind of their opportunity to poke a little fun at Disney in that movie.
Yeah. Well, he brings in pop culture reference stuff, in a lot of his pieces. So he's pretty hip. He's a hip cat. I'm sure he's not above poking a few jabs at the competition now, which is the competition for him.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
For my part, as my people say, fabuloso.
Yeah.
So part 2 of this is, according to Hollywood Reporter, James Gunn's Suicide Squad may not be a sequel after all, but a total reimagining of the entire team.
What?
Whether or not this means they're going to totally recast is still unclear. Fab or flub?
What do you think, Josh?
I think it's, if you don't reboot the whole damn universe, it's a flub, right? Like if we don't just do, I mean, the news about Batman being someone different, just start it over, guys. Just keep Wonder Woman, I guess, but it seems like a flub, a flubulous. If I can, if this is what we're talking about,
Travis,
I'm gonna go fabulous. From the standpoint of, I'm starting to treat these comic book movies like I treat comic books. As far as like, okay, X-Men has this long history. And at some points, we just get a new writer and artist on it, and whatever story was being told, it's now a different story, and there's different takes on the character. And I don't know, like I've been less of a continuity whore as I get older in life. And so if you get a good director and you get a good new cast, I'm down for it. I just don't want to see all the exposition again. I don't want to see all these characters. Like, I know who Harley Quinn is. You know, I know who Deadshot is. I don't need the 20 minutes to set up those characters. Just give me a good writer, a good director, some a fresh cast, and I'm down to check it out.
So we've already moved into the territory of Batman and Spider-Man, where we've seen too much origin story.
Yeah,
in your opinion.
Yeah.
So I'm torn because I thought Margot Robbie's character of Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad was one of the fewer bright points of that movie. I actually liked Will Smith's take on Deadshot as well. If they recast them, it's just, I don't know. It's going to be confusing because they're already coming out with the other movie with
Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey, where Margot Robbie's
really,
going to be in it.
Are they really, though, Lance? Is that a real thing that's going to happen?
Trying to figure out what DC's doing with their production company is like...
You can't.
Trying to count all the fish in the ocean. Like, it's
right?
just
like,
impossible.
this Joker movie's coming. Guys, this Joker movie's coming out, and I don't know why it's being made.
I know.
Although it looks cool.
It does, but that's the problem. Like, I'm like, oh, that does look cool, but why?
Yeah. DC is like the girl. DC is like the girlfriend who's like really hot, but also really psycho. And so you're like, I want to be attracted to you, but sometimes you just like do some crazy stuff. I just can't. Like, I woke up and you're hovering over me, DC. Yeah.
Or you break up with her, and then a year later you're like, damn, why did I break up with her?
Yeah.
And then you go and watch Batman versus Superman again, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember.
That Shazam trailer comes out, and you're like, ooh.
Like, it's not Facebook stalking, but that says Shazam trailer though.
And then you watch it, and you're like, oh god, never mind. What was I thinking?
Yeah, so I'm torn. It's a fab flub.
Well,
right down the middle for me.
A real Natalie Imbruglia torn going on over there.
The only thing that's because when I'm because I you guys are saying that you don't like doing like the weekly comics. I'm a Wednesday warrior. I'm there every Wednesday. I pick up my books, and it's a little jarring.
Way to martyr yourself, Jay. We get it. You buy comics.
I know. I'm the stud of the bunch. But when you're in the middle of an arc and all of a sudden the art changes,
yeah,
you're like, what? And that's exactly how I feel with the Suicide Squad cast. It's like, yeah, maybe they're not the greatest because, like you guys were saying about the X-Men films last episode, it's not like they can be replaced and they won't be. Another actor won't be a cool Deadshot, or another actress won't be a cool Harley Quinn. But we're already used to these folks, good or bad. They're already out there, and that's what kind of sucks. But
Jay, that's why I can't read DC Comics right now, because every other issue, because they all come out twice a month. They come out every other week, and they have a different artist every other damn issue. And I'm like, okay, I can't do it. I can't. Flash broke my heart, man. Like, one artist was fantastic, and then they'd switch to the other guy, and I was like, nah, I can't do this.
I know. But yeah, so I guess we're kind of torn on that one.
Yeah. So what's part 3 of this? What's parts 3 of this? The bad boy.
I'm excited.
Part 3.
Can we review part 1 and part 2? I thought part 1 was a good start, and as far as sequels go, I think part 2 was decent. I think part 2 was decent as a 3-parter. I'm really interested to see how you wrap this thing up. Is it going to be like a Return of the King? Are there 3 endings to this?
Part 3 is definitely like the Return of the Jedi of it.
Oh, okay.
Oh man.
It's kind of like features some Ewoks kind of thing. So, Entertainment Weekly reports that outspoken gun supporter, and I don't mean like the
NRA
Second Amendments, not the NRA.
Dave Bautista told Entertainment Weekly that James Gunn has in fact closed the deal with Warner Brothers, and Bautista later tweeted, "Where do I sign up for the Suicide Squad movie?" What do you think, Dave Bautista? Good fit for Suicide Squad reboot?
Who? Killer Croc?
Yeah, that's the only thing I can.
Who's Bautista going to be? I think no. I don't like him jumping from one to the other. I'm going to say Flubulous.
I'm also going to say Flubulous on that. Partly because I've done 2 Fabulouses already. But also, like, I see the sincerity in Josh's eyes over the video cam, and I'm like, oh, whatever. I buy what he's selling.
I think it's Flub, because if it wasn't for Drax, I wouldn't care what he's in. He's not a good actor.
No, he really
even as Drax, he's not a good actor.
Well, I liked him in the new
character.
I liked him in the new Blade Runner. I thought his part was. Oh, right, guys.
He's just a big robot dude in the new Blade Runner.
He does a better job with that dry kind of like humor than just like that than trying to be like a hard ass. It doesn't come across that way.
I just feel like you're gonna paint him green to be Killer Croc, and he's just gonna look like almost Drax. The same, right? He's gonna look like Drax. And that I don't like the idea of like, and this is so stupid, right? Like, I don't want my peanut butter in my, I don't want him to mix, right? I don't want like my DC like guys to jump to Marvel movies, and I don't want my Marvel guys to jump to DC movies. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. You chose a side. Just stick with it, right?
I think he's a bit short-sighted. Like, yeah, it sucks that James Gunn got let go, but I've been saying for a while now that I don't think that's the only reason he was let go. I think it's because I didn't really like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 compared to the first one. And I think Disney knows that it's not as good of a movie, and they wanted to go a different direction.
They just use that as an excuse.
This came out, and they said, "Oh, there's our window." Because if they would have just fired him, everybody would have been like, "Why? Why are you doing this?"
Yeah,
But so I do think that Bautista is being a little short-sighted, because who doesn't want to be attached to a Marvel movie right now?
Right.
Well, I think it's just like he just wants to stick with his pal kind of thing,
Well, he came out when he got fired and was like,
Oh, he was totally
screw Disney. Like they don't have their values are messed up or whatever. And the guy, I guess, that outed James, he wasn't really outed because his stuff was already in public to begin with. But the guy that outed him was like a white supremacist dude.
Really?
Yeah, so
some
politician, white supremacist guy that nobody likes. And so everybody kind of took that as Disney was siding with this white supremacist dude, even though Disney has been championing like, equal rights and all that stuff for.
Well, wasn't Walt Disney a white supremacist? Isn't that like when you look at what this is?
I know that
most people were back then.
I know
Walt Disney's
that he was part of the Illuminati.
Yeah,
I've heard that.
Along with Colonel Sanders.
Yeah.
He was probably one of those America Firsters back in World War II, right?
Like, it's a world of hate. It's a world of fear. It's a world of...
Yeah, but who wasn't back then? I mean, I've been
decent human beings.
I was watching the show Adam Ruins Everything, and Henry Ford was a racist.
Oh yeah, well that's known.
The guy that created Kellogg cereal was a racist.
Tony the Tiger?
He literally came out with the cereal called cornflakes, so he had to have been racist. But yeah, so I mean, whatever. But What were we talking about?
Dave Bautista.
You got me down a rabbit hole again.
I did not do it. You dug yourself down that rabbit hole and jumped in.
I would also like to interject that Jay is breaking the rules of fabulous and flubulous because he has not weighed in if he thinks this is fabulous or flubulous yet.
I think it's if I had to choose one, I'd say flub. Dude, just do Drax and then go do something else. You know, unrelated.
Like off Broadway. Do something off Broadway. Like really far off where we don't have to see you. Like,
like
Death of a Salesman.
Should get back in the ring.
Next WrestleMania. Yeah, he could be back.
Was he like a wrestler? Or was he like the cage fighter guy?
No, he was. I think he did both. He was a WWE wrestler. Yeah, Batista was a straight up WWE guy.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
He has like a weird sun tattoo around his belly button.
oh, you guys just stumbled onto Josh's secret passion, WWE.
My love of wrestling.
He has a son. Josh has a son who, like, already. How old is Renner now?
7.5.
7.5, and he's wanted to be a WWE wrestler since he was like 3. Like he studies it, he practices the moves. They watch it constantly on their TV. Like he's in his head. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, it's not what I want to be. I'm going to be a WWE wrestler.
Wow, that's commitment. Yeah.
And then I had to sit him down and talk about his dad's genetic genes and how, like, sometimes we want things that just aren't going to happen.
We just can't.
You tell him, hey, nerd runs in your veins.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But wrestling is just as nerdy. They're just as nerdy.
Like, his gimmick's going to be like a podcast where he's going to come out with like a headset and like a microphone on there.
Snowball in his hand. And it'd be great.
Well, what's next, Maestro?
Next one, Variety is reporting that a World War Z sequel is finally moving forward with Brad Pitt to star, and this time David Fincher is to replace Mark Forster in the director's chair.
Oh.
Travis, what say ye?
I would say flubulous on a World War Z sequel, but fabulous for anything that Fincher is going to be directing. So wasn't excited about the sequel, but when you put in Fincher, now you got my interest. You've piqued my interest.
I'm gonna say fab on both. I didn't really love the first movie, but the zombies were fun. It's like it's a totally sort of different take. I liked, I read the book and I think
different, isn't it?
It is. It's very different. But I mean, there's like a reason for it, right? That'd be a hard book to, I think, translate to.
Oh yeah, you couldn't do it.
Film as easily. But give me a giant herd of zombies crawling up walls again, and let David Fincher direct it, and I'm in. So fab for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think the first movie was cool. It's not one of my favorite zombie movies. Like I like ones with a little bit more humor. I know a lot of people liked it because the zombies are fast and it's a bit more realistic as far as zombies are concerned. I guess you can't really get realistic with zombies, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like people like that they're actually a threat. But I don't know. I think it'd be good. I mean, I'm just holding my breath to see if it actually gets made because they've been talking about Zombieland. I think it's supposed to come out this month, and it's not.
Uh-oh. I didn't know
really?
It was supposed to come out that soon.
Yeah, this year's like its 10-year anniversary, and it was supposed to be slated.
Wow, it's
really
been
come out 10 years ago?
Zombieland? Wow.
Jesus, I'm old.
Yeah, so I don't know what's happening. I mean,
that's sad.
So I'm holding my breath. They've been talking about World War Z for years, kind of like what's the Tom Cruise one with Emily Blunt?
Oh,
Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow.
They've been talking about that sequel.
That's a good one.
So there's some movies that they just talk about sequels, and until I see a trailer, I'm just gonna.
Hey, this is Variety. Okay, this isn't The Wrap.
Right. I don't know. I think it's bad if they get it made.
Yeah, I didn't particularly love World War Z the movie. I thought it was an interesting take on how it was so global, like in scope. That's kind of the only thing it has in common with the book, with the novel, is that they both kind of show the zombie outbreak as it happens in the Middle East and in Greenland and the States, and I kind of liked that. That was pretty cool, and I love David Fincher. In fact, I can't really think of a bad movie David Fincher's ever done.
Did he do Mindhunters? It's on
Yes.
Netflix.
Yes.
Oh man, that show is so good.
Social Network, Fight Club, Gone Girl.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah. Have you guys seen Mindhunters?
I haven't watched it. I heard it was good though.
Oh, it's fantastic. And the main character is the actor from Glee, and it's still good.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. I'm looking for a new binge, so that'll be good.
Oh yeah, it's worthy. It's worthy for sure.
Cool. So yeah, I say Fab too. So our last headline, and this is kind of a non-controversial one at all. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Universal Fabs. Movie Line has confirmed that Ryan Coogler is officially in to write and direct Black Panther 2 again.
Fantastic.
Fab.
I'm just going flub because you presumed I was going to say Fab, so I'm just going to go for that. Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love it. I mean, we're not.
But I thought he died. I thought he died at the end of Avengers, didn't he? How are they going to fix that? What are they going to do?
That's going to be some creative writing, right?
Yeah, that's another issue I have with Marvel. Is I wish Captain Marvel was going to be the next movie, and I wish I didn't know anything else. And
right.
They kind of screwed the pooch on a few things.
But I mean, like they're starting to show all the pictures coming out from, the casting stuff from Spider-Man. It's so hard to keep that stuff under wraps now.
I know, it's impossible.
I mean, like I mentioned the Joker movie earlier, and the only reason half of those pictures came out is because everybody was just putting up on Twitter, and the director was like, "Well, shit, now I have to give you real scenes. Like now I have to let you see what it really looks like." You know?
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, that stuff was not supposed to be out yet.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can't stop. A grip, taking those sneaky pics, on the set and selling them to, TMZ for thousands of dollars.
It's
these sneaky grips.
That's my rap album, Sneaky Grips.
So what's next? Oh wait, I said Fab. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, go.
Universal Fab.
Quad Fab.
It's just nice. So many times something is done really well with a creative team, like in the new Star Wars, whatever it is, and then for some reason they're like, we're going to change directors or change writers. Like, just it worked well. Let's just keep the same team, and it's nice just to see things that make sense happen.
Deadpool comes to mind.
Yes, exactly. It's a perfect example of it.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see people get success and still work together, and not all this drama come in.
Yeah, he's just a fantastic director. I mean, Creed is one of my favorite movies. Creed, it's fantastic.
And I don't know if you guys, I know you saw Fruitvale Station, but that was another with Michael B. Jordan. That was.
So my question is really Michael B. Jordan, is he going to be in this one? Because he's been in every Ryan Coogler movie.
In Creed or Black Panther?
Black Panther. I mean, he dies at the end of the first one. Spoiler.
I don't know.
I don't think you can bring him back unless he's in the Panther realm.
Well, yeah. They're talking about. I've seen like those stupid speculation articles that some websites do, and a lot of people are saying because of the Thanos thing that they could bring back. What's his face? Killmonger.
I don't think you do. I don't think you do though.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's totally going to be in that Panther realm, though, Josh. You know.
Oh yeah, he's going to be in the Panther realm. He is. He's going to be hanging out there. Because they made up kind of at the end, a little bit, right?
A little bit. They understood. There was like a mutual understanding, kind of, sort of.
Right. Yeah.
I just have one question.
Panther. Good.
Is Mufasa in the Panther realm?
How dare you, sir?
Yes.
The Panther realm used to be a really exclusive club, but when they started letting all these Panthers in, now it's just they let like Cougars in, Lynx is in, Pink Panther is there.
Both the actual Pink Panther and the detective, the Pink Panther. They're both
the Steve Martin version and the original.
I'm good. You remember that scene? That's the only scene I remember from that movie. When he's trying to learn English and trying to say hamburger.
I think that's the only joke in that movie.
All right.
So next we have we want to know a little bit more about our guests and what they do in their podcast, Comic Exposure. But I also want to ask you guys some questions about yourselves. So if you don't mind, what was your introduction into like the geek culture? Like, how did you get turned on to comics or superheroes kind of thing?
How the tables have turned, Travis.
I know.
We usually ask our guests this every episode, and now it's on us.
It's kind of a hard question. And I realize, like, it's just to impose that on someone. I feel very offended now. Go ahead, Josh.
I think like I have the same sort of comic book background that a lot of kids who were born in the 80s and grew up in the 90s kind of had, right? Like the things that had the biggest impact on me were cartoons first, right? So like the Spider-Man and Friends, the Batman 66, I remember watching reruns of the because it was all over the place in the 80s, those reruns of Batman 66 when I was a kid, the X-Men cartoon and Batman the animated series. Like those things pulled me in, but then in that whole scene in the early 90s when that comic book boom happened, right? And so my dad and I collected like baseball cards. And so that's where like my that's sort of weird collector habit started. My dad and I did that. And then like the comic book collection era started up. So there's a comic book shop by my dad worked for General Motors in Michigan. And by the shop he worked at, there was a comic book place. And so he would go in there and the lady would pull all these number ones, like all these Image books that came out. But before like the Image boom, I was reading, when McFarlane was doing Spider-Man, when Marvel was doing all the weird covers for the holographic Spider-Man covers across the 4 issues of Spider-Man, the Wolverine files with the claw marks through the cover of it was like a yellow file folder was the issue. Like that, those were like my first reads. And then like literally when that Image boom hit, my dad would bring home every number one. The gal my dad would just pull them, like the lady would pull them and put them in my dad's box, and my dad would bring them home. And he's like, "Which ones do you like?" And those were the ones that I would keep reading. So I remember like read the Max. I read.
You picked all the ones with the busty covers, like there's.
Right, but I remember reading the Max and Savage Dragon, and Spawn was like was the comic book. Yeah. That was a thing right there. I had issue probably 1 to 75 or something like that. So like for many years, like that was the last one that I still got. That like when I was in my teenage years and not telling anybody that I was reading comics, my dad would still bring that one back for me. But I remember going to like a weird comic, like a comic convention, and not like a comic convention like we have in Phoenix, but like a straight up a auditorium filled with dudes in long boxes, like just selling their books, like
that's what it used to be here.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like a real comic convention, not the the multimedia comic convention that we have today. But I remember going there and just like looking through comic books. That was my beginning of comic book stuff.
Cool, Travis.
Yeah, a lot of the same things as what Josh was saying as far as like getting into it through cartoons and stuff. But I think for comics, for me, JCPenney used to have a catalog. Before internet shopping, you used to shop at catalogs. And especially growing up overseas, my parents would like, "Oh, what do you want for Christmas?" And I would, pull through the JCPenney catalog, and they had the toy section. And in there, every year, they'd always have like 70 comic books for like $19. So they'd send you a big stack of it. And it was all the things that they would pull from the spinners that didn't get sold. I think JCPenney just bought them in bulk, and they just threw them in piles. So you would get like Archie in there, and then you would get, old X-Men, or there'd be some current ones. Whatever didn't really sell all their stock in the stores, they kind of just bunch up. So they send you a big box of comics. And I remember the first time I got that, I would just go through. I'm like, ooh, here's an Avengers. Oh, here's a random Captain America. Why is Captain America wolf in this one? Okay. Here's a Moon Knight. What's a Moon Knight? Oh, so I was reading all these books like out of continuity. But what stuck with me were those X-Men titles. And then I just gravitated towards the soap opera of it. And that's when I loved getting into the continuity of that. It made me feel like I was sharing something with a very limited group of people. Like me and these other X-Men fans, we know this giant universe with all these backstories. I can't do geometry, but I can tell you like every secondary X-Men character from like 1990 to 2000. And I was going to the store and buying it. it came out, and then it was X Factor, Generation X, and anything with an X in it I was buying, and then you branch out from there. So that was really it for me. That was kind of like my crack was X-Men.
Cool. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
X-Men's fantastic.
So how did you two meet?
Our meet cute? You want to know our meet cute? Is that what you're asking? Yeah.
Well, I dropped a bunch of books, and when I came up, my glasses fell off.
And I was trying to catch a football, and my varsity sweater got snagged on a nail. And yeah, we're both teachers, and we were teaching at a school together. And during lunchtime, we decompress and eat our lunch in the staff lounge. And it was probably like a whole year went by before one of us mentioned something about a comic book, but that was all it took. It was like, you read comics? Do you like this comic? Do you like that comic? Do you like this comic? And so that became kind of like our lunchtime routine. And we'd recommend stuff to each other. And then I eventually left that school. And as I was leaving, I had listened to podcasts. I'd done a podcast with a friend that we'd done like 100 episodes of. And then Josh was like, you want to do a podcast? You know, and so we kind of became friends from there. And I'll let Josh explain like the concept behind comic exposure. The original concept of it was.
Yeah, so Travis and I mean, we were kids who grew up on comic books and then fell away from them, right? Like that, like there's this, I mean, there's so many people that we talk to that like it was a big part until they hit high school, and then it kind of fell away. And then I got back into it, in my 30s, right? Like I was like, oh yeah, no, like I was missing this piece of reading in my life that I really liked. And so Travis and I got back into it, and we said, you know what we should do? We should do this podcast, but we need something to do, right? Like we wanted to read comic books together, but we decided to go the route of trades and graphic novels. And so our goal is to bring people on who maybe haven't read the book that we've read, or maybe don't read comic books at all, or read a different type of comic book. And we bring them on to Comic Exposure, and we go, all right, guys, we bring them in and we do like a comic book club. Like we're Oprah, both of us are Oprah, and we engage these guests on to have them just do like a roundtable discussion about the book we read. And then, in between we have what we call our variant editions. And that's where we just kind of BS about what's going on in the comic book world, or maybe we'll do a review of a TV show, a comic book TV show, or a comic book movie. So we've been messing around with that. We took a little hiatus this last spring and then came back at it this summer, but we've got, I don't know, a boatload of episodes out there on our website. So like we've read the variety of stuff we've read for the show is super crazy. Like we've just read a whole bunch of different stuff.
Cool. So what goals do you guys have for your show? Like where ultimately, like, where would you like to see your show?
I heard a chuckle in there.
I know.
Yeah. I think what it comes down to is the show, especially since I'm living in Japan now, the show has really become a way for Josh and I to keep our friendship going. And so to meet up and talk comics every week, and that's kind of where the show has become. And we just record it. And we get guests on, and sometimes we'll do interviews with like writers and artists from like Caliber Comics and some other the independent comic things. But really, the goal is just to continue it, because at this point it just has become such a part, I think, of our lives. Like general mental health is the goal, I think, at this point.
And I think both of us would probably still read comic books, but there's something great about being able to discuss it, right? Like there's a reason why people do book clubs, because you get an appreciation for the thing that you read in a different way, right? Like, to pull back the curtain, you guys were just on our episode and we got to read, we read The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina and Afterlife with Archie. And those comics meant so much more to me that we got to talk about them, right? Like I enjoyed them more than when I read them by myself. And Travis and I have read books where we've been like, yeah, and then we get to talk about it and we're like, oh wow, I really did like that book, right? Or a guest will give us some insight that we haven't had before. And so I think for us, it's really just about kind of spreading the appreciation of comic books. I mean, one, we just get to talk about it, but two, we get to invite some of our friends and folks who might not enjoy this little world to give them a glimpse that it's a cool medium, that it's a medium that gets to to do something that movies can't do. I mean, there's a ton of comic book movies, but comic books do it in a different way. It's its own unique medium that I think we both love and that we could kind of share with people.
Yeah. So tell me this, what if you guys could choose two trades, whatever compilations to if you were to recommend to people that don't read comics, that you're like hoping introduction. You're hoping it would bring them into this world. What two books would you recommend?
Oh, I know. I could tell you Travis's right now.
Okay. I one for me, like I love Preacher. I love that series, Preacher. I don't know if I'd recommend it to someone who doesn't read comics. I got my two that I was thinking about. Just off the top of my head, I would say two great ones for people who don't read comics are Four Kids Walk Into a Bank and Witches. I think those are really accessible to people who aren't really familiar with the comic book medium and just like good stories. They're wildly different books. Four Kids Walk Into the Bank is this really humorous heist movie that's a la Stranger Things and Goonies and then Witches is just straight up this psychological horror, which is beautiful art. So anyone who just likes to get scared, a spooky book, as Josh would call it. What about you, Josh? What are your two?
I'm surprised at you, Travis, because your go-tos are Preacher and Why the Last Man. I figured that would be your solid thing. I think if I were to say books that we've read, I think one of the series, it's not too old. It's still in singles right now. You can get a really good read of it. I think Southern Bastards is a really good non-comic booky comic book series, right? Like, it's this sort of like Friday Night Lights meets Goodfellas, right? It's got this, it's a really good sort of gritty take of this Southern like football gangster sort of thing. That's a really good one. And then I think, Travis didn't say it, and I just said that it's one of his favorites. I think if you want to give someone an entire series that's done, I think Why the Last Man is probably one of the best complete series. Brian K. Vaughan is fantastic. It is a great series beginning to end. It's pretty long, and so someone has to be committed to read it. But it is one of those reads where, again, it takes the medium. You expect capes and spandex, and then when you give that to someone, it's got good humor in it. Brian K. Vaughan writes great dialogue. The art is good the whole way through, and it's a fun tale. And so it's this sort of, it's this fun sort of adventure story wrapped in a global plague that, that takes out men. So it's super interesting take. But I would say that those are two of my top ones that I would tell people to read.
Oh. Jay and Lance, I'm gonna interject because there's a question I want to ask you guys, right? And I know you're like, this is not part of the format. But one of the things that we all have in common from listening to your podcast is we all love music and a particular type of music, kind of like into punk rock and stuff like that. But I think everyone has been in bands at some point, right? Is that correct? I know, Lance, you were in a band for a while, right?
Yeah. I was in a band called The Distress Signal.
All right. And Jay, you were in a band?
No.
You're just a big music fan, right?
Yeah, I just write about them.
Jay runs a blog on the side in addition to Couch Crunchers called Audio Ammunition.
Yeah,
and Audio Ammunition covers a lot of these punk bands and stuff like that. So he's been on the opposite side of the music industry, but he's been doing it for so long that we'll claim him.
Guilt by association.
And Josh and I were in separate punk bands in high school. So I was thinking about this the other day when Queen came out, or I don't know if it's coming out or that the
Freddie Mercury movie.
Freddie Mercury one. And a couple years ago they did this fourth Beatle comic where it was kind of like the fifth Beatle, right? So knowing love of music and especially like punk rock and stuff like that, if you had to create a biopic comic like the Beatles, the fifth Beatles, what would your biopic comic be on?
Ooh, that's good, man. Jeez.
Bonus points if you attach an artist to it.
I think the story of Anthony Kiedis is really it's a good story, just with his like drug addictions and stuff like that he had. I think Kurt Cobain went through some shit that would probably work. I don't know.
Visually, that'd be really interesting to see in a comic. Like that Kurt Cobain, that dream state, those heroin-esque images in there. Yeah.
Well, if you want to go with like some, I mean, even like Hendrix would be interesting.
Yeah. It'd be cool to do something with Hendrix. Like, there's a book that I just bought that I'm looking at reading, like Rough Riders, from Aftershock, where they kind of reimagine these actual people into kind of crime fighters and stuff. It'd be kind of cool to see like Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin and these guys.
Keith Richards.
Yeah, go out and like fight crime like in the middle of the night. Like in the day we play guitar and at night we fight crime.
Joe Strummer would lead them.
And like Woodstock is like a sting operation for like,
you just wrote it right there, man. That's it.
I think you just did it. I think you did it.
I think if I think my pick would be Keith Moon.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
A good question, dude.
Yeah, it is, man. Did you just come up with that, or have you been?
Well, I was thinking about it when I was listening to you. Well, Jay and I talked about like our kind of back and forth a little bit about punk rock and about the early days of it and stuff like that. And I think that you're not going to get a studio to do a big budget film on someone like Anthony Kiedis. I don't think at this point. Yeah. But comics are a great place where you could have like a biopic on Anthony Kiedis. It's a great way to tell the story of a band or a musician without putting all that money and fear of loss, or is there an audience for that? Like for me, I'm always fascinated with that Lookout Records Gilman Street. So like I thought like a Rancid Operation Ivy biopic, but that's the band you follow. But the sub story is you're getting that whole Gilman Street scene and teaching people about what happened there and how important it was, because they're not going to make that movie, but they'll make that comic.
Well, they made that documentary. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Didn't Fat Records, wasn't it Fat Records that did?
But Lookout did one too.
Oh
yeah.
They did a fat one, but they also did a Lookout one recently.
Really?
Yeah.
With Livermore? Is that his name?
I'm sure he's in it, but yeah, all about that Gilman Street
scene,
Bay Area scene.
I want to check that out. Did you guys watch the one with CBGBs?
No, I heard it was good though. I heard it was good. I watched the Fat Records one, but I haven't seen the CBGB's one. And I know that Joan Jett has a new documentary out as well.
Yeah,
that's supposed to be really good.
I'm gonna go a Fugazi. The Discord, a comic book about Discord would be that'd be fantastic, right? Like all those DC hardcore bands and stuff that came out, and then Discord's kind of transformation into what Fugazi and all that stuff, and then just like nothing is more comic booky than the Ramones themselves. Like a Ramones like if you just did a Joey Ramone bio comic, I think that'd be fantastic. That'd be good.
That'd be awesome. Or Henry Rollins.
I have a comic book that's Henry Rollins and what's the dude from Glenn Danzig. So it's Henry Rollins and Glenn Danzig forever, and it's a bunch of like mini comics of them like if they were in a relationship together, and Hall and Oates are their neighbor, like their neighbors are Hall and Oates. It's a super bizarro. Yeah, it's like this super bizarro like indie comic book. It's called it's literally like Glenn and Henry Forever or something like that.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Netflix now, I mean, I don't think any of these are out of the realm of possibility to even be created into a live action thing though.
Yeah, you're probably right. I've watched some weird documentaries on Netflix, so I think anything's possible.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, one of these days I want to get deeper into this, into Travis, into your love of Gilman Street, because that's actually how I discovered. I used to listen to like glam metal, when I was in junior high, and then I kind of went on Headbangers Ball. They played the Ramones for some reason, and I'm like, what? That's like everything cool I love about like Poison, but minus all the schlock. and so I started getting into that, and then I went to a party, and they were playing Operation Ivy, and I'd never heard anything like that. I'd never heard anything ska and especially moving in that in that tempo, and it was just so fast and catchy. And I asked somebody who it was, and they told me. And the next day I was at East Side, or was it East Side or Tower Records? I went and bought the
Sam Goody. You were at Sam Goody.
No, they didn't have Sam, Operation Ivy cassettes. And Sam Goody. I had to go to the import section, I think, at Tower Records. But yeah, I went there and I saw like their thank you list, you know, like Green Day, Monsula, Pinhead Gunpowder, and I just started buying all those records.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think punk rock and comics go together, man, so well. I think there's that same aesthetic. It's the idea of comics is I need a writer and an artist, and here's our vision, and there's no one getting in the way of it. You know, in Marvel and DC, you have editors and stuff like that, but it's a real garage mentality. There's no third parties. There's no one putting their fingers in it. You know, when Pinhead Gunpowder creates an album, that's exactly what they want, right? And I think there's something about that aesthetic that's in comics, and the same as in punk rock. Just the idea of like, this is our vision, and you get, for better or worse, what we want. And there's just kind of like, we're going to do it, like especially with independent web comics, we're going to do it whether someone's paying us or not. We're going to put it out there, and the audience will find it. And that's always been like a real punk rock mentality. I love it.
Excellent parallels. Yeah, and it's funny because my friend that runs Audio Ammunition with me, and my other friend who we kind of grew up listening to this music, and we all three of us kind of got into it around the same time. We were thinking about starting a podcast, playing some of the records that get sent to Audio Ammunition, and talking about punk and comics. And we're thinking about, like, I think we're the only three that like those things. But in talking to more people, it's you know, a lot of people like punk and comics. Turns out,
they go hand in hand, because there are two things that I think of. For one, when I was listening to punk rock music as a kid, I was the outsider. And a lot of the kids back then that were reading comic books were the outsiders. So we got along really well, and you get put into both those worlds. Not only that, but punk rock is kind of viewed as like the counterculture to like music. Like people that generally study music and love regular music, like punk rock is seen as like
childish, right? Like just like comic books are kind of seen as this childish genre
compared to like a novel. You know what I mean? Like so. I kind of think that it's almost like the counterculture, you know, they just go hand in hand. It's kind of like I think a lot of comic book readers like that read regular comic books are probably into like a lot of indie films and stuff like that. Stuff kind of like under the radar a little bit. But yeah, I can't imagine like not loving both those things at the same time, you know, like it's just, they go hand in hand. And what's cool is a lot of these artists and musicians are in that comic book world, like professionally, like the lead singer of
Say Anything,
Chemical Romance,
My Chemical Romance.
Say Anything, which I've got his record.
Well,
he writes Moon Knight now, Max Venus.
Coheed and Cambria, Claudio Sanchez. Yeah, he writes that Turbine. I forget what it's called, but it's good. I remember reading it. but like they're kind of involved in those things. So
right there, and Travis mentioned this book earlier. He mentioned the Four Kids Walk Into a Bank. The guy who wrote that one also did a book called We Can Never Go Home, and literally it has a soundtrack with it. Like it's very much a punk rock. It is very much like this romance of punk rock and like superhero comics together. Like these two teenagers find out they have superpowers, and like there's this whole, like the government is after them, but there's like a Smiths tape with all of like you know, like the soundtrack to it. It's like Bad Brains and the Smiths and like this core group of like 70s and 80s like proto punk and stuff. It's this very cool comic book that like married those two things that I love so much together.
That's one of the reasons why I like the new Spider-Man so much, the new movie. As soon as the Ramones started playing in that movie, I'm like, what? Like these things are married.
It's so perfect. It's so perfect for Peter.
So New York.
So, he was in New York. It was
But it's like a lot of that music. I'm like, this kid is just like me in high school, except a bit smarter. But it was awesome. Like, listen to that. And I think that's maybe one of the feelings that people get when they watch Guardians of the Galaxy. They're listening to like electric light orchestras playing and all these other like old,
like David Bowie and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, like my dad likes Guardians of the Galaxy because they married those two things together. But Spider-Man is just. That's me, dude. That's
if you can listen to some NoFX, right, in the next album, like he puts it on, it's like Punk and Drublick while he's going and swinging around the city.
Right.
Oh, I'd be like, we're done here. We're good. This is amazing.
Or some linoleum.
Yeah. Oh, linoleum would be perfect. That'd be great.
I would love to see somebody do like a quick movie, like a short movie of their The Decline. That's that 18-minute song that they have, and do like a short film to that, like a music video to that.
That would be awesome.
Awesome. But like in comic book art, like a cartoon, like be awesome.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
I remember I bought The Decline as a kid because everybody's like, listen to NoFX. I was probably like 14 or something like that. Listen to NoFX are awesome. And I bought it and I look and it's all clear, like the outside of it. And I pop it in and it's like one song that's 18 minutes long. And I felt like I got ripped off. And that was probably the one NoFX song that I've listened to the most in my life.
No NoFX. When I was growing up, it took them a couple albums to get sort of listenable. Because like Liberal Animation
they were so like raw,
ribbed and stuff like that.
Well, this very like metal combination that those guys did out there. When you listen to old Lagwagon and you listen to old NoFX, like there's a straight up hair metal piece.
All that early Epitaph stuff.
Yeah.
Well, even like old Green Day, like 1039, was very like raw, and it's weird that those same guys also made Dookie. Like it's like it's the same music, but like there's something about like the shitty recording that makes it better, like in 1039. But I don't know, guys.
There's something about like I can still put on Dookie today, and I know every single word to that album.
Oh, yeah,
and I'm like so far removed. I haven't listened to it, and then I will put it on and be like, oh yeah, she.
Silence. And you know what's funny about that song, She? Like I hear it on the radio all the time now, but when that album came out, I don't remember it as much as like When I Come Around. But She's like gotten bigger the older it got.
I don't think it was a single.
No,
it just was kind of one of those gems that was embedded in there.
Yeah,
but I hear it more than I hear Burnout or When I Come Around or Welcome to Paradise. I mean, and Welcome to Paradise is probably one of their most well-known songs ever.
Yeah.
And She's like always on. You know what's funny is that's the one song on the album that Billy Joe didn't write.
What, She?
I didn't know that.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Travis, I just want to know, how does it feel to completely have hijacked these two gentlemen's podcasts? How does it make you feel?
It's awesome. We don't get to talk about this with the other two. Like Max and Cameron, like Max's idea of good music is like indie.
I think you should
crying
stop.
stuff.
I still like. I have a punk rock past, but I love some good indie crying stuff. But like punk rock and that hardcore ska, like hardcore and ska, were like what I grew up on, and they hold like a special place right here for me.
Oh yeah. In fact, Alkaline Trio is supposed to be coming here.
Yeah, I saw that. I just, to throw it way back to like a proto punk. I just saw MC5 do their 50th anniversary.
How was that?
It was fantastic. It was great. The guitar player from Soundgarden was there. The bass player from Faith No More. The drummer from Fugazi, and then just Wayne Kramer tearing it up at 70 years old, just playing that album. Front to back. It was great. It was fantastic. It was super fun.
That seemed. I know that could have gone either way. So I was like, I'm not that adventurous anymore.
Didn't Misfits just come with like the original?
They didn't come here.
No,
I think they played.
Or did they do something in California?
They played the Riot Fests, and then I think they played Vegas, and then and I think that's about it.
The Offspring's going to be at Huntington Beach.
I saw that.
Well, it's like
smash or nothing, guys. Smash or nothing.
So we just have a few more minutes left, and since it's October, I wanted to get. I don't know how much you guys are into horror movies. We talked about some horror comics, but horror movies. And I didn't want to let the podcast go without getting some horror movies in here. So Josh, do you have any like favorite horror movies you like to watch this time of year? If you could pick one.
You picked the worst people to ask this question. Travis and I are like, scary movies are bad. For me, movies are something you watch to escape. And like, I go to a movie for a spectacle. So I love popcorn movies. So I don't typically go see horror movies, but I remember the one movie that scared the shit out of me was The Candyman. Like that's like that one scared the shit out of me. I don't know how I was like, I can't remember how old I was when it came out, but I remember like we went on a group of us went to go see it. So I had to have been like 14 and couldn't drive yet. I'd have to look at the year it came out or whatever. But I remember that. And really my favorite horror movie is Scream. And so if that tells you anything, like
that's pretty decent.
Scream's awesome, man. I'm like, yeah, it's campy, but like it's a classic.
Scream is probably my favorite horror movie, which doesn't bode well. Or I Know What You Did Last Summer, because those
Another
are
campy one.
those came out in the 90s when I was in high school, and we would go after play practice. And I remember a bunch of us from drama would go see. I remember seeing both Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer with a big group of people, and so like it's just part of my like. It's nostalgia, probably more than anything else.
What is there not to love about I Know What You Did Last Summer? Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yeah.
Sarah Michelle Gellar in that one? She the other girl?
I don't know.
Yes, she is in that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Scream, I mean, Courtney Cox. And
yeah.
I can't think of any of the guys in those movies, but I remember the girls.
Matthew Lillard.
Yeah.
And then
the mom's gonna be so mad at me.
Skeet Ulrich, right?
Oh, right. Yes.
He was in Scream. I don't remember the boys in I Know What You Did Last Summer though.
I think one was Freddie Prinze Jr. Am I right on that?
Yes, I think so.
Remember the faculty? Remember the faculty with
guys? Do you think that's where Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar romance?
Oh my gosh, I used to be in love with Sarah Michelle Gellar, and I think I've told you.
Oh, who wasn't?
Before.
Yeah, it's great.
A signed, autographed picture of her on my wall.
Now it's under your pillow.
Yeah. I'm gonna take it out.
It's better than what Josh has. Josh has a signed picture of Giles from Buffy. Right.
Angel. That's who I have too. Actually, the original Buffy is one of my favorite movies. Not the one with
Luke Perry.
Yeah. And, what's her name? I can't remember her name.
She was just in the news recently for not such
know.
flattering stuff. But
she wasn't paying her taxes or something. Who's in the original Buffy?
Buffy
Swanson, Christy Swanson.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That's one of my favorites. That's a good one.
Was Joss Whedon attached to that one too?
I don't think so. 'Cause it was
that's
very
early,
different from the show. It was like it was actually like really funny and like
it was real campy,
like tongue in cheek,
super campy.
Oh yeah, he wrote the screenplay for the original.
Did
one.
he really?
He created that character.
Oh, that's
Vampire
awesome.
Slayer.
Paul Rubin's in it. Pee Wee Herman
really?
is
he's like the vampire guy.
Can I tell you? So I've got a little pop collection, right?
Yeah,
right there, and I got really excited when I saw the new Pee Wee Herman pop.
You have it?
I'm gonna get them. There's one with the couch, and there's one Pee Wee Herman. He's holding a little note that has the word of the day on it.
Oh man,
dude,
that's fantastic!
I got so excited. I'm like, when I was like 5 or 6 years old.
Is the Cool Cats gang? Do they have the Cool Cats gang? Is that on there? Is there a zombie one?
I remember the couch. I think there's a jukebox or something like that, and Pee Wee.
Or the Lawrence Fishburne. The Lawrence
That'd be
Fishburne
awesome.
mailman.
Wasn't he?
The Cowboy Curtis.
Oh yeah.
Conky?
No,
Is
the
it
mailman
Conky?
was Phil Hartman, wasn't it?
Yeah, the mailman was Phil Hartman.
Oh yeah.
I think there were 2 mailmen, but Conky is the robot. What's the zombie is that the genie head? There's got to be a zombie top, right?
I'm not sure now.
And we just derailed again. We just derailed the podcast again.
That's Lance's middle name.
Zombie?
Derailment. Travis, what about you?
Oh man, like I'm like Josh. Like I hate to weigh in because there are things that I can talk about, and I know people take horror very seriously, and like they have like these really cool things. But I'm just gonna go. When I was a kid, one of the first horror movies that I saw that scared me was Pet Sematary 2. I don't know how it holds up. It was like Edward Furlong's in it, but I always thought that was really creepy. And then
coming out.
Is it?
Yeah, the trailer.
Oh yeah, I saw the trailer for it. Yeah. So I go check out the Pet Cemeteries if you haven't done the Pet Cemetery. There's just also this movie called Jaws. I don't know if you heard about it, but I think that's pretty creepy. But yeah, I like. I think we were talking about this when we were talking about Archie, and Lance mentioned it. I like my horror to have humor in it. So I like for every like fright, I like a laugh to it. So anything that's like campy or like funny, like Scream is a funny movie, right? Josh talked about Scream. It's a funny movie. So and Monster Squad. I was put Monster Squad up there.
Yeah, it's classic.
That's about as scary as I can take it. It's like Monster Squad.
PG-13 scares. That's where we live.
Yep. So you want me to go next?
No, actually, due to time constraints, we're gonna have to cut you off, Lance. Thank you. No.
Shaun of the Dead, because I like anything with Simon Pegg.
Yeah.
And it has that humor in it. And then probably House of a Thousand Corpses.
Is that Rob Zombie?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's a great one too. I like that.
But that one's not that campy. Like that scene where he's like cut apart and like put into the mold of a fish. You know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
Oh yeah.
But the clown is great. Like it opens up at that gift shop with the clown. I love it.
Oh, speaking of good horror, I just watched Mandy with Nicolas Cage.
Oh, how is it?
Great, I liked it.
Weird. It's really weird, but it's
Nick
really
Cage
good.
goes full Nick Cage in that movie. Like he's snorting cocaine and like woo, all your favorite like Nick Cage facial expressions. Takes it to a 10.
Does he steal the Declaration of Independence? Because if he doesn't, I don't know. It's not my
but he does have a very Thor-looking like axe thing that kind of looks like Stormbreaker.
Oh, cool.
That he molds like it's like straight out of Thor Ragnarok or Infinity War, where he's making his thing. He's like pouring the metal into like this, like it's this big like, sword axe.
But the prop looks so like someone pulled it out of a high school theater where it's made. It just looks so flimsy and
it wobbles a little bit.
Yeah. What about you, Jay?
Well, I have several, but I think that like the one I always think about when I think of horror is the first thing that I saw that scared me, and it was actually on TV. It was a miniseries called Salem's Lot, which was Stephen King book. It's been adapted several times, but this one was with David Soul, who's from Starsky and Hutch, I guess best known from. But that show I remember watching with my grandparents when I was little, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, this is legit frightening. And I don't know if you guys you probably haven't seen it, but there's some images in that show that will stick to me the rest of my life.
Wow.
I knew that watching it. I'm like, this is really scary. But it's great. It's and there's no humor in it at all. It's pretty bleak. And that's kind of like, I think what stuck to me is because they didn't really win. The heroes didn't really win at the end. The bad guy gets away, and the show ends when they're like packing up and going after him. And I'm like, wow, that's all. I don't know. It's something really.
That's how the best horror movie should be. There shouldn't be
like
that
a
hope.
Closure.
No,
there shouldn't be hope.
No, I mean it's supposed to be like the very darkest things. Like I like my horror movies that like I don't leave the theater feeling uplifted. You know,
I like both. I honestly like both because I like it like like the Dracula movies when they kill Dracula at the end. And he's dying. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, I think we're at the end of our show.
It's a good episode, guys.
I feel like I've definitely crunched a couch today with this podcast. Like my butt is like, it's numb. It's numb at this point.
So tell our listeners where they can find you.
You can find us on the internets at www.comicexposure.com. All of our old episodes are there. You can also search for us on Google Play. You can search for us on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher, and you can find our tons of episodes with tons of books that we've reviewed. Plus, if you really wanted to and you wanted to hear us talk about The Last Jedi, there's probably an episode where we talk about The Last Jedi, or you're like, you know what? I wonder what these guys thought about Iron Fist that came out 3 years ago. We can hear us talk about that too. But we've got a bunch of old episodes on there you can check out. We're also on Twitter at Comic Exposure and Facebook at facebook.com/Comic Exposure.
Fantastic. Well, it's been a pleasure having you guys. I want to say one thing before so the show's going to air on Monday or Tuesday, Monday, I think, maybe. And there's going to be a song at the end, our featured song. We haven't quite figured out how to put it on the YouTube video. So you guys are going to have to wait for that, but he'll tell you who it is. But before he does that, I do want to say Absolute Geeks podcast is live right now. So as soon as you hang up here, go check that out. But it started about 5 minutes ago. And then check us out on couchcrunchers.com, Facebook, Twitter. Just look Couch Crunchers. We're the only one. So
give us a like, give us a follow, give us a hug,
a high five.
You see fit,
you know,
anything.
Jay likes kisses on the lips.
I do,
like with a little bit of tongue,
gently on the cheek.
Keep it classy. A
little bit of tongue, maybe a finger in the butt. Yeah, but
that's second.
He likes to get his oil checked. All right. Who's the song?
And I'm past overdue. So the band is The Anxieties from Portland, Oregon. The song is called Lab Rats from their album Buried Alive. And you can find that on their Bandcamp. If you just Google The Anxieties Bandcamp, all their albums, everything will come right up.
We're going to put the link in the comments of the video.
Please check them out.
Look down, and you'll see the link here shortly.
Check them out. They're fantastico.
All right. So, guys, you've listened to our episode. You know we like to finish on our chant.
I call nerds. I call nerds.
Okay. Let's start off.
Go for it, Travis.
Nerds.
Go for Josh.
I have no idea. I'm the worst. I'm the worst person.
Right. Nerds, dorks, geeks unite.
Oh, okay.
Travis will start with nerds. Josh gets dorks, and then we'll do the rest.
Let's reset. And let's go. Nerds.
Dorks.
Geeks. Unite. Thanks, guys.